Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Bob Power, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from Relevant Gold Corporation. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Rob Bergman, CEO and Director of Relevant Gold Corporation, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol RGCCF and on the TSXV under the symbol RGC. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks for having me, Bob. It's always great to be here, and thanks to the OTC Markets Group for putting on such great events. With that, I'm happy to be able to take everybody through Relevant Gold, our story, kind of our corporate profile, and do a little bit of a dive into our portfolio and some of the compelling targets that we've generated and are continuing to test out in Wyoming. And at Relevant Gold, we're really focused on this idea of developing Abitibi scale gold potential throughout Wyoming in the United States. Before I get into it, this is a cautionary statement and disclaimer. You will see some forward-looking statements throughout this presentation, and we seek safe harbor from that. We are an early stage explorer. There's a high degree of risk associated with these types of investments, so I encourage you to do your due diligence as you evaluate our opportunity and others like it. But with that, I'm happy to get into our strong value proposition. At Relevant Gold, we do have a very unique value proposition as a junior miner. We've got a very well-rounded team of proven value creators. And we're focused on this idea of unlocking a potential mega district, specifically with Abitibi-like potential. With that in mind, we've established a very large land position. We've got over 5 district scale assets. Within those 5 district scale assets, we have multiple high value, large scale targets permitted, some that we have tested at depth already, following up on the very high grade gold that we've seen at surface associated with these linear shear zones, where we've had surface rock chip assays exceeding 5 ounces per ton gold. And in our first ever drill program at one of our flagship assets, the Golden Buffalo Project, in 2022, we drilled 83.8 grams per ton gold over 1 meter, and over 50% of those drill holes intersected shear-hosted gold mineralization. Following up on that, in 2023, we conducted a pretty widespread regional program, as well as drilling 1,500 meters into our heavy hand target within our Lewiston project. And our regional program has now identified over 50 kilometers of prospective Abitibi-style shear zones across our 5 projects. And really, the thesis that we have at Relevant Gold opens up us to really multiplier of discovery opportunity. And we're focused on creating a true pipeline of discovery opportunities throughout Wyoming, which is a great place to operate. Taking a look at who's behind us, we have a very sophisticated group of shareholders in the company. Myself and co-founder Brian Lentz are still the largest shareholders of the business and continue to acquire in each and every financing round, as well as on the open market. New Gold Inc. has taken a 9.9% interest in this, as well as Rob McEwen, who came in on the last financing and now has a 6.4% stake. We've only got 62 million shares, just over 62 million shares out. So we are a very, very clean new company. We listed only about a year and a half ago, and we're just getting started on our discovery process in Wyoming. Taking a look at that incredible team I mentioned, Dr. Peter McGaw is on our board. He has led the discovery of some of the richest silver deposits on Earth, and really is a kind of a pioneer in true district and system scale potential for kind of precious metal opportunities. Sarah Weber, she is out of Vancouver, and Sarah is the CEO of C3 Alliance Corp, and they focus on Indigenous relationships, community relationships, ESG, permitting, and those types of things. Brings a lot of depth in that arena. Ron Parrott is has led the discovery of over 20 million ounces of gold in Nevada, and has sold numerous deposits north of $2 billion in his career. And then myself and co-founder Brian Lentz, who's our chief exploration officer, round out the board. And Brian and I have a depth of experience in creating profitable businesses in the mining industry. One of our first companies is a technical consulting firm with over 70 scientists and 4 offices now servicing the largest mining companies in the world. Rounding out some of the shining stars on our team are some of these technical advisors, Dr. Dean Peterson, who did his PhD in the Abitibi Gold Belts, and we can talk a little bit about some of his accomplishments. Dr. Tom Campbell, who is the senior exploration geologist for Homestake Mining, both at the Homestake Mine and the Hemlo deposit in the Abitibi, who has a really deep understanding of these types of orogenic systems. And then Dr. Kevin Chamberlain, who is out of the University of Wyoming and is actually one of the main published authors that has connected Wyoming to the Abitibi during the time of gold mineralization. And we'll get into that, as that is kind of the crux of our investment thesis. First, what are we looking at? What are we going after? We're going after orogenic gold systems. Why? Because they're some of the richest, highest grade, deepest deposits on Earth. They've accounted for over a third of the world's gold production globally. And it's really important to understand how these deposits formed to guide how you go about exploring for them. First, you need a metallogenic source fluid. This is deep in the Earth's crust, accumulating your precious metals of gold, silver, copper, and other metals. And then you need your second thing, which is your pathway. Now, that pathway is formed during your major tectonic events, your mountain building events, where you have your plates crashing together and creating these deep-seated fractures into the Earth's crust and suture zones. That allows your gold-bearing fluids to upwell into the Earth's crust, where it's looking for the third thing. That is the trap. This is the favorable host rocks and these secondary structures where the gold is really happy precipitating out in these kind of near vertical orogenic deposits. And when we talk about orogenic deposits, the biggest known orogenic system on Earth is the Abitibi Gold Belts. The Abitibi Gold Belt is comprised of these east-west anastomosing kind of Archean belts that you can see highlighted as gold lines here, and clustered all along those belts are major multi-million ounce gold discoveries. This area has produced over 200 million ounces in the last 150 years, and again is one of the most prolific gold belts in the world. Now, all of that gold formed in those gold belts in kind of a magic time frame around 2.6 to 2.7 billion years ago. And really, this is where our thesis comes alive. And it's not something that we came up with. Some folks much more intelligent than us, a lot of really, really strong academic scientists have done the tectonic reconstruction work and the age dating and really have been able to establish this connection of Wyoming to the Abitibi during that critical time of mineralization about 2.65 billion years ago, and then later rifting apart to where it presently resides. And we've got a nice little animation here that shows kind of this thesis in summary. So again, these were attached 2.65 billion years ago when all the gold came into both of these systems, and then later rifted apart, Wyoming taking all of that gold with it to where it presently resides. So it was under that thesis that we really saw Wyoming as the unexplored extension of the Abitibi Gold Belts. And this is where, our group, as being a boots on the ground group and a very technically savvy group, we really started to generate areas of interest across the state of Wyoming that met the criteria for Abitibi style gold development. In doing so, we were able to establish and take almost complete control of 2 major camps throughout the Oregon Trail structural belt, again, that is dated at that 2.65 billion years. This is from one of the academic literatures that is in the published academic publications. One of our technical advisors, Dr. Chamberlain, has actually out of one of his major publications. And this is the Wyoming province as it's been reconstructed. And you can see these east-west anastomosing structures cutting across the state, just like we see in the Abitibi. And we were able to basically establish control of the South Pass camp and Bradley Peak camps. South Pass is our flagship area, with Bradley Peak as kind of our all-encompassing standalone camp. And all along these belts, there was historic gold mining, though it hasn't really been looked at with kind of modern technique and this new connection to the Abitibi. With all that in mind, we've established, again, 5 district scale assets across these 2 camps, totaling over 40,000 acres of ground. Our Golden Buffalo and our Lewiston were our 2 flagship assets. Golden Buffalo, we have identified extremely high-grade gold, including coarse visible gold at surface, through some surface trenching in 2020 and 2021, and followed up with that with our first ever drill program in 2022, where we intersected high-grade gold up to 83.8 grams per ton over 1 meter across this main Golden Buffalo shear zone. In addition, over 50% of the holes drilled intersected shear-hosted gold mineralization, really defining the Golden Buffalo shear zone as a high-value target moving forward. From there, and getting our real strong proof of concept of not only our Abitibi thesis, but both high-grade gold at surface and at depth, confirming that we have a big orogenic system out here at South Pass, we moved the drill over to our Lewiston asset last year, where we drilled 1,500 meters into our heavy hand target. The Lewiston asset is about a 10-kilometer shear zone corridor laced with gold mineralization, where we see those rocks exposed at surface. And our heavy hand target is where we had our highest grades from our rock chip sampling programs at surface. So we're expecting those results any day now. Really excited to see what comes from that. But initial observations of that drilling are really strong support of not only an orogenic system of scale, but continuing to check the boxes for our Abitibi thesis. In addition, we did a significant amount of regional work this year, where we generated some new district scale targets at both Shield Carissa and our Bradley Peak projects. Bradley Peak starting to incorporate some high-grade copper mineralization and a bit more complex, greenstone rock assemblage in the rock package. So we're really excited about what we're seeing there. And same thing at Shield Carissa. We've defined about a 2.7 by 1 kilometer corridor with numerous high-value targets within. And all of this is done because we are very systematic. We are a technically driven group, and we focus on what we can control. We're not here to moan and groan about the markets. We're here to do good work, technically strong work, as well as doing it with fiscal conservancy in mind. We really know how to stretch our buck into the ground and make sure every dollar is spent wisely. And I think this is a good illustration of that. And to date, all of that work that we've done across the portfolio of assets continues to check every box for a large-scale orogenic gold systems throughout Wyoming, specifically with this connection to the Abitibi, one of the largest gold belts on Earth. As we look at last year and the successes we had a very busy year. Although we had a pretty thin budget, we were able to really stretch that dollar. We got a lot accomplished. We drilled our 1,500 meters first ever drill program at our Lewiston program. We have those results pending and should be getting those very soon. In addition to that, we focused on refining our targets within our Golden Buffalo project. As we know, we've got a proven target in the Golden Buffalo shear zone. We think we might have some extensions of those shear zones identified on the east and west limbs. And we've done some follow-up soil sampling and rock chip sampling in order to help define that. In addition, we've done some very detailed mapping and rock chip sampling at our Golden Buffalo, Bradley Peak, and Shield Carissa project, where we've identified another 6 district scale targets for follow-up drilling. And all of this is going to be supported by an airborne geophysical program being flown over both of our camps, in which we kind of are awaiting the results to come in of, expecting that hopefully by the end of this quarter. And that was done by the Wyoming Geological Survey, just another example of the support we see in Wyoming. And they were able to secure the capital to fly that, and our properties are included in that initial survey. So we're excited to get those results, layer all this stuff together to really start to refine our targets, rate and rank our targets as we continue to progress our portfolio forward. This is just a quick glimpse of kind of our major news throughout the year. Again, we are an execution group. Our background is basically in conducting exploration for some of the biggest groups on Earth, and we've applied that to Relevant Gold as we develop our projects here. Again, we consistently get compliments from existing shareholders on our follow through and our ability to do what we say we're going to do. So this is just a good reflection of the year where we accomplished a lot, from receiving our initial results from Golden Buffalo drilling early 2023 and being able to leverage that into an oversubscribed financing at about a 25% premium to our share price, and continuing to upgrade our corporate profile. We've uplisted to the TSX Venture Exchange, as well as securing our listing in the OTCQB, and really positioning Relevant for the turn of the markets whenever they do come. In addition, our technical results have been very strong and continue to support the thesis and check all the boxes. So as we look ahead to 2024, we're continuing. We've had a lot of news flow recently, but we still have some to come. We've got some major news coming out of our Lewiston drilling program. Hopefully that'll be out soon. Golden Buffalo soils and rock chips as well. That those two, we're just waiting on the final results from the labs to be able to get that out to the market, as well as the airborne geophysics that the state is flying. Last notification we had is that we could expect that hopefully by the end of Q1. From there, we're going to really get back into Lewiston. We like what we see in the rocks there. We think there's some really, really compelling targets at Heavy Hand, as well as some of the other areas on that project. We'd like to get out and do some geophysics to tighten some of those targets, and then get back in with the drill as soon as we can to start testing these targets at depth. And really refining our drill targets that we've developed at Bradley Peak and Chio-Carissa, and getting them into the queue for 2025 drilling. And this is just a quick summary from one of our board members, Dr. Peter McGaugh. He really sees this as a unique opportunity in today's marketplace, as do all of us, and we're very excited for what's to come as we continue to prove up our thesis in Wyoming. So I'm going to take kind of the next 10 minutes, I'd say here, 12 minutes, hopefully leave some time for questions, give you guys a quick glance at this portfolio, and basically kind of get a better understanding of the depth of our targets and projects. So taking a look at our portfolio at a glance, again, we've got these very large district scale assets, 5 of them across 2 major camps, Lewiston and Golden Buffalo being our flagship assets. And until kind of this year, some of these other assets hadn't had a significant work program. So we're excited to get out there and do some more advanced work at Bradley Peak and Chio-Carissa, where again, we identified 3 new target zones at each one of those projects. At Bradley Peak, we saw, again, the influx of high-grade silver and copper in that system, as well at Chio-Carissa, where we saw some high-grade silver associated with our gold there. Following up at Lewiston, we've got that 1,500-meter drill program with results pending. Taking a look at our South Pass camp, which again is one of our flagship areas, both Golden Buffalo and Lewiston, 2 flagship assets in that camp. This is applying some of Dean Peterson's PhD work, where he was able to identify, he studied Timmins, Kirkland Lake, and Hemlo camps in the 90s in the Abitibi, and he was able to discern that 99% of the gold produced from those camps, which was about 115 million ounces at the time, 99% of that gold specifically came within a 6 to 7 kilometer buffer of your major suture zones, which in this case, these black lines are our major suture zones. The red dashed is that 7 kilometer buffer. And all that gold specifically was within the secondary P shears in that system. And as you look at our South Pass camp, again, you can see these buffer to the main shear zones. The light blue rock is our favorable kind of host rock, the Miner's Delight Formation. And to date, all of the gold that we have seen both at surface and at depth are associated with these secondary shears, continuing to support our thesis. And when we look at that camp in comparison to other camps in the Abitibi, just to give you perspective on size and scale, this South Pass camp is about 50 kilometers end to end. If you were to draw that box around any camp throughout the Abitibi, you do engulf multiple multi-million ounce discoveries. So looking at South Pass in 2023, again, we're refining targets and began our regional soils program at Golden Buffalo. We were able to cover that entire property with soils, so we should have those results soon. In addition, we did our detailed mapping and sampling at Shield Carissa. We're permitting a third target here at our Lewiston project, and we drilled 1,500 meters into our heavy hand target at Lewiston. And that takes us into Golden Buffalo, which is, again, a very high-grade shear-hosted gold system. This was trenched in 2020, where, again, you can see the high-grade gold that was pulled out of that trench. Obviously, our rock chip assay program supported that with 168 grams per ton out of some of those rock chip assays. And when we drilled this zone, this main Golden Buffalo shear zone, we intersected gold mineralization in almost every shear that we drilled, with the highest grades coming out of this main Golden Buffalo shear zone, and our highest grades being about 400 meters stepped out to the east and at 170 meters of depth in the fresh rock below the oxidized zone, really giving us that proof of concept of our thesis, but also of a big orogenic system here at Golden Buffalo. Taking a look at that again, over 50% of the holes specifically intersected shear-hosted gold mineralization, and you can see that in this diagram. When we intersect the shears, we get some gold mineralization, and this is telling us that we are in the apex of a very large system and that we need to get some deeper holes into this target. This is just looking at that fertility. Again, we do have widespread gold fertility throughout this Golden Buffalo shear zone, and we've got an abundant multi-phase kind of orogenic quartz veining system throughout that you can see in some of these core photos. And importantly, on this project, we have recently purchased the main 700 hectares within the core of our project where that trench and drilling came from. In doing so, we've eliminated $16.2 million in calendar-driven payments, and we've shifted some of that to milestone payments, as well as bought out the property for 1.5 million shares. More importantly, we were able to add two incredible operators to our team, Jerome Hutchinson and Jacob Tyra. Jerome has a significant amount of experience in community relationships, site management, and things like that, as well as Jake, who was mining superintendent at Pogo as his last job before moving back to Wyoming. He's licensed in everything under the sun from MSHA to explosives and brings a tremendous amount of depth in operational management. So we're excited to have these guys on the team moving forward. This is looking at that property again, why that 700 hectares was so important for us to purchase outright, not only eliminating our burn rate on property, we decreased our property burn rate by about 35% in doing so, and our overall burn rate by about 20%. And this was a critical piece of our land package, as you can see here, where all of our high-grade drilling and sampling at the Golden Buffalo project had occurred prior. So this was a very important piece of property for us to tie up for the long term, as well as eliminate the overhang in decision-making at the end of the option. As we look at Lewiston, we've got, again, an orogenic shear-hosted gold system. And really, this is a 10-kilometer shear zone corridor that is laced with gold mineralization throughout, where you have outcropping shear zones. We have a number of very high-grade, large-scale targets within this property package, two of which are permitted here in our northern part of the property, and this yellow one is a permit application is in process, and we're expecting that going into next year. Now, to give you a perspective on size and scale, this is the original Canadian Malarctic mineralization footprint projected to surface. So that's that footprint, about 11 million ounces to scale. You can see that you can fit that in almost any one of these given targets. To really illustrate, these are true district scale, large targets with that additivity potential. As we looked at Lewiston, we've done a significant amount of work at surface, and everything is telling us that we're in the apex of this system, right at that brittle ductile transition zone. We've got a strong correlation with gold and arsenic, bismuth, tungsten, and all of that is telling us, again, that we're in the apex of the system and that we need to look deeper. And our drilling to date, although we haven't got our results, the alteration in shearing that we do see and that we reported on as the close of the program is exactly what we'd see in an orogenic system like this. And so we're really excited to see if we get any gold smoke in the oxidized zone Most of those holes we did drill into the oxidized zone. We only had one hole actually get out of that. So we're excited to get back in and drill some deeper holes. We've done some early stage metallurgical on this property, and we see that our gold in the system is dominated by free gold and gold attached to arsenates. So again, arsenopyrite, pyrrhotite, these types of sulfide assemblages is what we're looking for and what we're hoping to see as we continue to drill at this project. And to date, kind of a summation of our drilling, we were testing this main corridor where we had some mineralized shear zones mapped at surface. We drilled 11 holes. Again, almost all of those stayed in the oxidized zone. Here, it was much deeper than what we saw over at Golden Buffalo. But we are seeing these shear zones at depth, as well as some shear zones that do not crop out at surface. We are seeing distinct alteration zonation pattern as you kind of go in and out of these shear zones, and a significant amount of hydrothermal fluid evolution, where we're seeing remnant sulfides, arsenopyrite, pyrrhotite, you name it, as well as an abundance of complex veining throughout these shear zones. So again, it has all the indicators of a large-scale orogenic system. If we get our results back with some gold fertility, we're going to be very, very excited to get back out and put some deep holes into these targets. Quickly, I'll wrap up here so I can get into questions. Shield Carissa, we did a detailed mapping and sampling program here. This is directly adjacent to the most prolific mine in South Pass, which was the Carissa mine, produced about 200,000 ounces on record. And this is still there and standing. So if you ever come for a site visit, we can take you out and you can go tour this mine, which is pretty fun to see. Our program this year, again, we really were able to define a big corridor of shear hosted gold mineralization, as well as these important mafic wedges of rocks popping up. But our sampling kind of is highlighted by that 18.9 grams per ton gold and 486 gram per ton silver. And the vast majority of what we're looking at here was, again, that shear hosted mineralization. Interestingly enough, these two historic mines, the B&H and the Carey Shields mine, they did have gold grades historically. We've sampled those, but our work this year was able to connect those two mines with the shear zone connecting basically from top to bottom and picking up gold mineralization along the way, really expanding the target opportunity there in our Palmetto zone. And lastly, Bradley Peak, again, district scale camp. We have the entire camp. This is your classic, Abitibi style Archean assemblage of rocks, where we see both, orogenic style mineralization as well as some intrusion related gold mineralization. The work has established these three really large target areas with high grade gold, silver, and copper associated. So we're excited to get out and put some more refining to these target areas and get some permits in queue for follow-up drilling, hopefully in 2025. With that, I'd say join us for the next big discovery, and I think I've got a few minutes here to cruise through a couple of these questions. So a couple of the questions we had is around money and prioritizing the amount of projects we have with a limited budget that we've operated on. There's a couple techniques here. One, we're able to operate at significantly lower cost than a lot of our peers. That is because of the other entities we've built in the industry. We're able to subsidize some of our exploration costs because we already own a lot of the tooling equipment, and we've got access to some of the top staff on an only ad hoc as needed basis. But prioritizing the projects was a big focus of this year. We spent a lot of time doing regional work in addition to our drilling so that we can rate and rank our targets and our projects and make sure that our dollars spent in the ground are going into our highest valued targets. We're going to continue to do that. This thesis is big. There's a lot of legs behind it. It's going to take a significant amount of work. We're not afraid of that. If the markets can turn and cooperate, we'll have a lot easier ability to more rapidly progress this as well. Consideration of a JV on one or more of our projects, I would say it's never out of the question. But currently we're focused and we are so confident in what we're seeing that we're not ready to decapitate our upside by JVing this early. If the right deal came to the table, we're more than open to entertaining it. But for now, we're pretty focused on continuing to develop this ourselves. As far as the valuation of the company and what are some drivers for re-rating, I think two things. One, we have a lot of results pending here still that are going to be potential catalysts as we go into this year. And also, we've seen our trading kind of sustained for 18 months now at this level. And so I think it's really signaling we're at the bottom of our market for relevant gold. And this is a great entry point for anybody trying to get in on our story. One of the other questions we have here, we have a very large land position. Who are the other players in the area? Are there royalties that burden the land package? So the vast majority of our land package is unencumbered. We do have some royalties on some of the lease and option deals that we have in place, which is a couple. There is a royalty on the Golden Buffalo deal that we acquired just a couple weeks ago. So there's a 3% royalty on that with a 2% buy down. But the vast majority of our property is unencumbered as we were able to stake most of this ground free and clear. And our kind of, when we talk about district scale, to kind of address that portion of the question, we look at district scale as what does it take to house the largest known deposits of this kind. And we focus specifically on acquiring land packages that could engulf a true multi-million ounce deposit. And with that, I think I'm out of time. So I thank everybody for listening in. Please reach out if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one. I'd be more than happy to dive into the details and answer any questions you might have.